Hello, everyone. My name is Justin Cole. I'm a livability planner with the Nashville Department of Transportation. And today we're going to be talking about Gallatin Pike and Main Street, specifically our project to establish a vision for a complete street along that corridor. Complete street so that we have a safe street for all users, so that there are choices and options available for people to travel on the way that they want to travel along the corridor, and also to create a street that better serves the communities along this corridor. So if you're joining today, you probably live along the corridor, maybe you work there, uh, go to school there, or send your kid to school there, shop, have a business, et cetera, et cetera. And Gallatin Pike and Main Street is certainly an important part of the community. And so we want to make sure that this vision reflects the community. So thank you for participating. I'm going to hand it over to Kevin Tilbury with Kimley Horn. They've been working on this project, so he's going to give a little bit more of a background on, why we're doing this project and why now, and then provide some basic information about existing conditions along the corridor, things that we're considering as we look at advancing this project. And then after watching this video, would encourage you to take advantage of some of the virtual engagement tools that we have on our website, on our project page, so that you can provide your feedback into this project. So I'll turn it over to Kevin now.
Thanks, Justin. Kevin Tilbury. And we are very thankful that you've taken a few minutes out of your day to join us. And we are very pleased that we're able to offer an online option too for folks that are a little bit too busy this time of year to get out and see us in person. So I'm going to share just a brief presentation with you. What we'd like to talk about today is just a little background on why we're even doing the project, and then share some of what we see as some of the issues and challenges, and hopefully some of that will resonate with your own experiences, and then talk a little bit about what's already been planned for the quarter, and then where we're going to go and what some of the challenges that we're going to be able to address as part of this project. And then finally, we'll wrap up and let you know what you can expect from the project in the new year, and then ways that you can get involved. So as Justin mentioned, this project started as a resurfacing project. And what resurfacing means is essentially Nashville DOT will come in on a street and replace the pavement. And when they do that, they typically redo the restriping and all those types of things. And so a resurfacing project is programmed right now for Main Street from 5th Street to 10th. And NDOT said, we could just do resurfacing, but we can also use this as an opportunity to rethink the design of Main Street. And as we're restriping it, maybe design it so that it better meets the people who live and travel and visit businesses on the corridor. And then at the same time, they said, but that part of Main Street is part of a larger corridor that includes Gallatin Pike all the way up to Briley Parkway. And so what our project does then is it establishes that long-term vision that's going to inform the near-term design of Main Street, but it's also going to work for the whole length of the corridor. So our vision really is to transform Main Street and Gallatin Pike into what we call complete streets. And what that will do is provide safe and accessible options for all users, no matter who they are. So when we talk about safety and why is that an issue? Well, we have been looking at some of the crash data on the corridor. So I know that folks that walk, ride a bike, take transit, drive on the corridor know that safety is a challenge. Right now, we looked at the crash history, and you can see where some of the worst offenders are in terms of where some of the worst crashes are. But there's about one crash per day on average on the study corridor, which is pretty significant. And if you drill down a little bit more and look specifically at bicycle and pedestrian crashes, there's about one per month, which is quite a bit. And you can see in circles there where the hot spots are. There's too many there to call out. And then zooming in even a little bit more, looking at some of the fatalities on the corridor. And so we're averaging about one per year. In the news recently, there was another fatality in December on Gallatin Pike in our study corridor as well. So that's really unfortunate. So I want you to think to yourself for just a minute of these deaths and of these injuries. How many of those do you think are acceptable for Gallatin Pike? Well, Nashville DOT in Nashville, they say none of them are. So um, this project is proceeding under a concept called Vision Zero. And basically, what that says is that no fatality or serious injury is acceptable, and that we should design our streets so that there are no safety issues, there are no fatalities or injuries. And so that's the premise of our project and how we're designing the street. So again, another question: think about what's the main factor do you think that determines how safe or comfortable a street is? Have an idea? It's speed. So speed is the number one factor that determines safety. And here's a good reason why. You can see there at 30 miles an hour is sort of the breaking point at which a pedestrian can survive a crash. And speed is a factor for two reasons. One is the force of the impact, obviously, higher speeds. And then two, at higher speeds, the distance that you can travel and your response time changes significantly. And so you can't respond to a situation as quickly. And so by that very reason, our design or what we're aspiring to do on Gallatin Pike and Main Street is to create a design that lowers the speed. This is what Main Street looks like today. You've got this wide expanse of pavement. So officially there are two travel lanes in each direction, but there's also a lot of extra pavement there that's sort of undefined. And so what that does is it encourages, in a very subtle way, higher motor vehicle speeds. Not explicitly, but in a very subtle way. And we see that in the data. So right now, the corridor is posted for 35 and 40 miles an hour, and we're seeing that in the speeds that that the average speeds have been measured in the 30 to 45 mile an hour range, and that it tends to be higher during the off-peak periods when there's less congestion. And if you recall that previous graph I showed you, you want to try and get below 30 miles an hour to create a safe Gallatin Pike and Main Street. And another reason that contributes to the issue is there aren't a lot of marked safe pedestrian crosswalks in the corridor. So what's called out on the map here with the arrows are some of the worst offenders that you can see where, in some cases, that 2,500 feet, that's about half a mile. So there's a half a mile in between safe marked crossing locations on the corridor. That's a long way to walk, and no one's going to actually walk that far across, of course. And we're seeing that in the data that a lot of the pedestrian crashes are happening in the locations where there are no signalized or marked crossing locations. So that's definitely an issue that needs to be addressed. Just taking a look at the roadside environment itself, if you're walking to get to a business or to get to a bus stop, you'll notice there's not really a buffer between the sidewalk and the high-speed traffic, which could be a furnishing zone. So things like benches, shelters, those types of things that would normally separate you from the road don't exist in large part. There's not a lot of landscaping in the corridor, and it really sort of combines to create an uncomfortable roadside environment. So you mentioned no landscaping. One of the other things that contributes to is what's called the heat island effect. The significant amount of pavement and hardscape sort of exacerbates the heat issue. So this is a map of afternoon temperatures in Nashville, and you see that little red hotspot that's called out there. That's Main Street, so that's part of our study corridor. So that's something that we want to try and address as part of this project as well. So what it really boils down to is Gallatin Pike a place where you would want to live life, to walk, bike, or ride it, or ride a bike? This is what the environment is right now. It's amazing. If you're walking down Gallatin Pike, you're going to have a conversation with the person beside you. It's not a comfortable place to walk, and the data shows that. So that's what our project will do, is try and transform Gallatin Pike and Main Street so that it doesn't have this situation. So looking at it from the other side, despite some of the issues and challenges, it's a very popular route for transit. It gives almost 100,000 rides per month, which is the Route 56 is the second highest, most productive route in all of WeGo's system. And there's already a good level of transit service in the corridor. You can get a bus about once every 10 minutes if you're waiting there on Gallatin Pike, which is great. One of the things that we can try to address too is the congestion on Gallatin Pike contributes to about $750,000 in additional operating costs for WeGo every year. So that's a real benefit that we can bring by eliminating that cost. I'm sure you've noticed all the dirt that's being moved on Gallatin Pike over the last few years. The corridor is growing. So there are a lot of existing longtime residents in the corridor that have needs, and there are new residents that are moving to the corridor. And both of those groups of people need a place where they are safe and comfortable so that they can get to work, to school, just to live life. I mentioned the safety issue on Gallatin Pike and Main Street. So it's part of what's called the high injury network. And those are what are considered to be Nashville's most dangerous streets from a traffic safety standpoint. And these are priorities for investment. We think there is a lot of potential for walking and biking in the corridor. We're able to look at cell phone data that's been collected to get information on where people are coming from and going to in the corridor. And this is what we're seeing. A good number of the trips are under a mile on the corridor. And those are trips that could be done via walking if we create a safe environment for that. If we look a little bit further on longer trips, between 1 to 2 and 2 to 4 miles, about a third of the trips on Gallatin Pike are that distance. And those are trips that could be taken via a bike if we provide safe and accessible cycling options. And then if we look a little bit further at trips in the 4 to 8, 8 to 16 range, those are trips that could be taken via transit, or they could shift to shorter walk and bike trips if we provide the facilities. So we think that there's a lot of potential for shifting into other modes of transportation if we provide the right environment for it. Now, we're not the first people to think about providing a balance of modes or options on Gallatin Pike and Main Street. In Motion, the master plan for transit has called out Gallatin Pike as one of Nashville's corridors for high priority transit. You can see there on the map. And then subsequently, the Better Bus Plan and the mobility plan for the East Bank, where the stadium is going in, also envision high capacity transit running along Gallatin Pike. Nashville Next, which is the land use plan for Nashville, envisions transit, high capacity transit along Gallatin Pike and Main Street. The land use recommendations for the corridor look at clustering a lot of homes along the corridor so that people can, do have an opportunity to have short walking, bike, and transit trips. And then finally, the mayor's transportation plan, which was released just a few years ago, calls out Gallatin Pike as a sustainability corridor, which would then make it sort of a candidate for innovative transportation improvements, such as smart systems for how we manage traffic, green infrastructure, things like bioswales, those types of things, and then maybe even solar energy. Now, some of the design challenges that we're going to encounter, and if you've walked on Gallatin Pike, I'm sure you've seen this. There's a lot of sections where there are continuous curb cuts. No matter where you walk, you're kind of walking in a driveway. And then there's a lot of front-loaded parking. So right in between the street and the building, there's a lot of parking to be dealt with. Now, businesses need that access and that parking. So we understand that it contributes to a more challenging pedestrian environment, but at the same time, we can't completely get rid of it right away because we know that businesses need that. So that's kind of a balance that we're walking in, is how do we long-term address those issues while in the short term creating a safer environment for walking, cycling, and riding transit. And then the other big design challenge is the fact that the pavement is only so wide. So we've got a limited amount of pavement to fit all users, cyclists, pedestrians, transit, automobiles. And so we're going to have to make some trade-offs in terms of how we design the street to accommodate all users. And that's going to be a definite design challenge and something that we want to get your input on. So in just a minute, I'm going to talk about some opportunities for you to provide input. But first, I just want to share briefly where we're going to go from here. So we're wrapping up the phase where we're trying to understand where the corridor has been and what some of the issues and challenges are. And then we're going to quickly shift gears and start to put together some ideas for how we can make or transform Gallatin Pike and Main Street into a more friendly corridor. And you can expect to see that in early 2024. We're going to roll out some concept or some ideas for you to react to. And then based on feedback that we get, we'll then start to make some recommendations. And then that's going to immediately go in and inform the design of Main Street later in 2024. But first, we would appreciate your feedback. And we've got a couple of ways to do that. Justin mentioned the website that we've got. So there's a survey on the website, and there's also a tool that you could build your own street. If you wanted to, so this is what Gallatin Pike looks like now. If you wanted to say, replace a car lane and maybe put a bike lane in, or maybe put a bus lane in, it's your street, so you can design it however you want, but that's one way that we're going to get input from you. And then the other is, if you go to the website, there's also a survey that we would like for you to take. And if you hit pause on your screen right now, you see there's the website. I know it's a little bit long, but you can either type it into your browser, or if you go to Google and type in Gallatin Pike and Main Street Project, it will come up as well, I think. So once again, we appreciate your time. We encourage you to go to the website, and we look forward to engaging with you at the beginning of the year. So thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye.